Okay, so welcome. This is the System Administration and Internet Working Introductory Lecture, and today I will explain to you everything that you need to know that has to do with this module that we're doing here. All right, so my name is Vasilios Adamos, you can just call me Vas. My office is in A202B, so that's Anglesey Building, second floor, second room of the second lab. But I'm never there. I'm always in the lab that we will be working on, and that is A2.net. So it's Anglesey Building, second floor, all the way to the left on top of the stairs. Okay, so I live there because all of my classes take place there, and if I'm not in a class, I'm tinkering with my computers and everything else. So if you do need to see me, the most efficient way to ask anything is just send me an email. All right. Or if you just drop by the class, you might find me there and you can ask away. It's not a problem. All right. My email is, as everybody else is in university, name.surname@portac.uk. Your student emails have at my.portac.uk in the end. Okay. So there's a difference after the @ between students and staff. So. So the module that we will take, it will have 4 lectures that will explain the theory of everything that we will be doing, and then there will be 6 practicals, so 6 lab sessions that will take place in A2.net, and this is basically the juicy part of the module itself. Okay, we have 4 weeks, and it's a good coincidence this year until the week that we don't have any teaching. That's called the consolidation week, that takes place on the 23rd of October, if I remember correctly. So for Halloween, yeah. And then after that consolidation week, we will not be coming here for lectures. We'll be going into the lab for practicals. The last week, because there are 7 weeks after that consolidation week, the last week is the assessment week. So I will explain later on how the assessment actually works in more detail. So we will be working in our lab, A2.net. The kind of work that we do requires lots of CPU cores and lots of RAM, and that's why we're only working in A2.net, because it's a specialized lab for our networks and operating systems and virtualization and clouds. So we will always be working in there, and you cannot actually do this work anywhere else in any of the other labs like the library and so on in the university. On the flip side to that, the lab itself is open access. So then when there are no timetabled events taking place in the lab, you can actually go in there, and if your computer is free, you can just use it. Even if there is a class happening in there, as long as you set your phone to silent and you're not and you're relatively quiet so that you don't distract the class, you can actually go and sit on your computer and work, even if as long as nobody else is working on it. Okay, so you will be able to get access to these computers as long as you try your luck by going into the lab. Also, the timetable of the lab itself, when there are classes running in there, will be posted on the door, and I think there's a QR code now that takes you to the link with the timetable as well, so you can see and you can know in advance if there is a class running in there or not. And the lab is open from 8 in the morning until 8 in the evening. Assessment for this module, there are 3 items that are being assessed, 3 assessment artifacts as we call them. The first one is my logbook, the second one is Linda's logbook, and the third one is the exam. The logbook is essentially a logbook that you keep during the practicals, and you explain all of the work that you did there, and the exam is going to be a 1-hour computer-based test that you will do at the end of the year, so that will be in May. Notes and all required material you will find on Moodle. Have you been on Moodle yet? If you haven't, please do so and familiarize yourselves with it. The module is there, bookmark it, so you can go and get access to all of the material on there. So the lab itself is A2.net with open access until 8 o'clock. Computers will be allocated to you during the first practical on week 6, and then from then on you will always work on that computer. This means 2 things. It means that you cannot change a computer in the second week of the labs. Okay, you cannot get started in one computer in the first week and move on to another one. And the second thing that it means is that you need to come to your allocated lab slots. Okay, to your allocated lab sessions. So there's 140 odd of you, there's a capacity of 48 in the class, so we'll have 3 or 4 sessions running in there. So whichever session shows up on your timetable, this is the session that you need to come into. Okay, don't ask your friends, when is your lab session, and go with them, because then you will not be able to scan your card on the door and you will not get the attendance for the lab. And also everybody might just prefer the session that's running in the afternoon so that they don't have to wake up early in the morning and will overcrowd one of the sessions. Okay, so once we go into the lab, decide where you want to sit, who you want to be next to, for example, if you want to, and you can work. The lab sessions, you are working individually on them. So you each get one computer that you work on. All right. However, we do generally like teamwork. One of the skills that we want you to get out of this unit is troubleshooting. And the best way to troubleshoot is to help somebody else with some problem that they've created on their computer. Okay, so it's not cheating on anything. We don't complain about it. If you get up from your computer and go and help somebody else, it's fine. You will learn from it, they will learn from it, and it's great. You will also have me in the lab that will help out and troubleshoot everything, and you will also have a couple of teaching assistants of mine that will also be able to help you out if something does go wrong. Okay, so it is individual work, but you're okay to get help and help other people as well if you want to. The schedule for the lectures, essentially there will be 4 lectures, and thankfully I can actually go and do the first one today. So we will start with the operating system installation and familiarization. So this is a lab set that's designed for you to learn how the operating system works. So you install it on a computer in the lab, and then you play around figuring out what the basic commands do and everything else around it. Then we will deal with VMware, because we will be working in a virtualized environment. You will install and configure a VMware Workstation Player version 17, I think it is now, and you will build all of your virtual computers in there. So by the end of this module, you will have a virtualized network that will be inside another virtual machine. So this is what we call nested virtualization. This means that when you go into the lab, you will create a virtual machine, which will be your basic virtual machine that has a size of 200 gigabytes. And everything you do will be inside that. That gives you the added benefit that if you wish, you can actually copy that virtual machine, take it home with you, or you can build the same virtual machine at home in your home computer, provided that you have enough memory and enough CPU cores and enough hard drive space on your computer at home. And you can practice at home as well on all of the material that we're doing. Okay, and we'll do a little bit of routing on the operating system, see how the operating system actually handles multiple routes. We'll learn a little bit of networking in that as well while we're at it. And then in the end, we'll just set up a random service just so that you see how a service works in a network. And in our case, we'll be building a DNS server, configure it, install it, and then have all of your other clients and all of the other virtual machines actually use it in your network. Now, details for the assessment. The logbook that you will have, it will be an electronic logbook. I want it to be a Google Doc while we're using Google Apps in the university. So what you will need to do is you need to go into your Google Drive. If you haven't played around with your Google account from the university at all yet, please do so. You will need to go into your Google Drive and you will need to share your logbook with me. Okay, this way I will be able to see your logbook and you will be able to basically work on it and update it every week when you go into the lab. So it is supposed to be kept during the practicals and it is submitted at the last week of the teaching block. And in order to submit the logbook, I first need to check it. By check it, I mean I need to see the work that you've done on the logbook and I need to sit with you on your computer and make sure that the work that is explained in the logbook is actually reflected on your computer as well. Okay, we don't want you cheating. So I need to check and basically I need to see how much of everything that you've done you understand and you've learned. All right, because the point of all of this exercise is for you to learn and understand the material. Okay, so the logbook gets assessed the last week. I will essentially spend 5 minutes with each of you on the last session and move around everybody's desks, quickly check your work on the computer, check your logbook, mark it, and then you submit it in a submission inbox on Moodle that will be available for that purpose. The logbook does have a specific structure on it, so you can have preparatory work, methodology, configuration, testing, results, and so on. You don't strictly have to abide by this, but it's easier for me to mark if you do. And it's easier probably for your thought process and for you to explain everything that you're doing in the module if you actually follow this structure as explained here. The deadline for the logbook will be, so your classes are on Mondays, if I remember correctly, so it will be 6 o'clock on the last Monday of the teaching block, which will be the 16th of December. All right. The exam itself will be a Moodle-based 1-hour exam. It will be multiple choice, multiple response, fill in the blanks, and so on. It will take place in May. It lasts 1 hour and it's 50 questions. 50 very quick questions. Okay, so you don't need to worry about that yet, and we will have a revision lecture before that exam takes place, so that I show you and will show you some examples of what kind of questions you will get and so on. Recommended reading for this. If there's one thing that you need to learn about all of this is the operating system. Okay, any Red Hat based operating system, either Red Hat Enterprise Linux itself or Rocky Linux or Alma Linux will also do as well. Those are the ones that you need to find. The links are on the PDF, which is on Moodle, so you don't actually need to take down the ISBNs or anything, so because this is already on Moodle available. And you can just go and click on it. You can actually buy an electronic version of it as well from Amazon, if you like, or any other website. I'm not affiliated with Amazon. And most importantly, the Rocky official documentation. So Rocky themselves, they have a documentation website for their operating system. It's pretty much the same as the Red Hat Enterprise Linux documentation, so you can just follow that if you like. Any questions about all this? Yes.
Is that Rocky 8?
Yes. Yes. Okay, so with that out of the way, I will explain the first lab sheet. So the first lab sheet, so this is, I won't say useless to you now. I will explain a few things and it will be recorded, and you can come back to this later as well, but it will give you an idea of what sort of work I expect you to actually do in the lab. All right. So we will be starting with the installation of the operating system. So the idea is that you have an allocated computer in the lab, and in that computer you have an allocated username, a user account. They are not your normal UP student number accounts. They are VM1 to VM12. Okay. Your first years, you're on a Monday, you'll probably get VM1, VM2, and VM3. When you come into the class, depending on which lab session you're on, we will tell you what your username is. The password to log into all of this by default is localhost1, and the very first thing that you will need to do in the lab is to actually change that password. You will need to change it to something that you know and you remember. Ideally, it should be the same password that you use for your university account as well, so you don't have to remember multiple passwords for this. The reason why we're doing this is so that nobody else can log in to your account onto this computer, because these computers are used in 4 different modules, so we'll have students from 4 different modules coming into these computers and working on them. We don't want everybody to be logging in with the same username. All right, so it's your username, you will build your virtual machines in there, they will be yours, and nobody else can mess around with it. All right, I don't need to know your password, you don't document your password in your logbook, obviously. Okay, but this makes that user account and that computer in the lab yours until May. All right, so to change the password in there, all you need to do is open a terminal and type the passwd command, and that will basically tell you, okay, what's your old password, localhost1, and then what's your new password. It will ask for it twice. It does this wonderful thing where it doesn't actually show any characters on the terminal when you're typing, and when you press enter, it just asks you for the second time to do it, and then you just have to have faith that you typed it correctly, and then it will tell you if both times were typed correctly. Okay, so it's a bit weird, but security. Now, once you change your password, you then need to go and build your virtual machine. As I said, you will build one main virtual machine, which we call something Prometheus. All right. And inside that virtual machine, you will do everything that you need to do. This has the added benefit that A, you can take it home with you, and B, if you break it, we can recover it very easily. So at the end of this lab sheet, we will show you how to actually take a backup of this virtual machine. So if you move on to the second or third lab sheet and you completely destroy your operating system, you wreck the hard drive or whatever, it's all virtual. You can just copy some files across and you can recover your backup of that virtual machine and continue working. So this way you don't have any problems. You're free to experiment and try whatever you want, and it's safer that way. Plus you can get lots of users onto the same computer. So we're creating this virtual machine from the ISO image. We're going to open VMware, start it up. It's going to tell you, do you want to build a new one? Do you want to open an existing VM? You build a new VM. The first important step in this is the name. The name of this virtual machine that you're building should contain your student number. So it should be UP whatever dash Prometheus. Okay. This is helpful to me because when I see the screenshots in your logbook, I know that the work was actually done on this particular computer. All right. And most importantly, when I sit on your computer in the last week to check, I can basically check that the virtual machine is actually yours and you've done it. Okay. And also this safeguards the fact that your work is going to be your work and nobody else can actually copy it from you and take it and pass it on as their own. All right. So you'll have the name, your student number and the name itself. We'll give the size of 200 gigabytes, which should be enough for all of the 4 or 5 little virtual machines that you will build in there. And then we give it 32 gigabytes of memory, and we can give it 4 or 8 processor cores, whatever you like, it's up to you really. Set the network card to bridge mode, and then basically tell it to install the operating system. The operating system will happen in a semi-automatic method. It will ask you for the root password. You should always set your root password inside your virtual machine as localhost 1. Generally, out in the real world, you shouldn't. Your root password should be super complicated, and you should never log in as user root into your Linux box. Okay. However, because it is a lab, it's an isolated environment, and it's a test environment, and I always want to be able to SU myself and check whatever you're doing, you should all have a password of localhost 1 on your root accounts on your Prometheus VMs. All right. Also, another thing that you can do is you can actually log in as root, because then that will save you having to SU all the time. And you will have to SU all the time because 99% of the tasks that we'll have to perform will require administrative privileges. All right. So the root account, use it now in the lab. Generally, don't use it out in the real world. I should mention at this point as well, in case you have used Linux and computers and you think you're a good hacker, if you mess with other people's virtual machines, that's an automatic expansion from the module. And there are log files that we can check. If you're that good, that's fine, try it on, but yeah. Okay, so don't mess with other people's machines over the network is what we're taking away from this. So once you've built your virtual machine, set up the language, locale and everything else, it needs to be a specific type of installation, so it needs to be a server with graphical user interface, and those particular packages need to be installed in the operating system, and we need those packages to be there because later on, technologies that we will use, such as the FRR for routing, for example, or our DNS server, will require some of these to be there so that as prerequisites. And then once you do that, you basically build up everything else, you partition the hard drive. There is a special way that we partition our hard drives for this. Any Linux installation by default has a /swap partition, which is extended memory essentially. It has a /boot partition where the kernel of the operating system is stored, and it has a / partition where everything else gets stored there, and it has a /home partition where the user accounts get stored. We will be working as user root, so we don't actually need a /home partition in there because we're not going to create user accounts that have any significance or meaning for our labs. All right, so we will be taking away the /home partition and giving all of the hard drive space to / where the /root account basically lives. Okay, so this is a small tweak that we're doing in our partitioning, in our operating system. Perfect. So that we can actually basically perform all of the tasks that we need to perform in our particular way. So once that's done and partitioning is done, we need to deal with networking. The university owns the Class B network of 148.1 and 7.0.0. The lab that we're working in A2.NET owns subnet 28 and 29. So the computers will have a little blue sticker on their monitors, and they will have a number, and that starts from 1 to 48. And basically these are the IP addresses that you will need to use for your computers. The hosts themselves have 1 to 49. The Prometheus virtual machine that you will build will need to be that plus 50 on top of that. Okay, so 51 to 99. Once you set up the IP addresses and all the other networking information, you can go up, you can go around and play around with the system a little bit. Make sure that all the passwords are correct, sort out the configuration, make sure it's finished, and so on. The next task is the backup.